Hey, Lower Decks is building block and message Star Trek. Yes. Today, episode 331, can you believe it, of Trekland Tuesdays Live with me, Dr. Trek Larry Nemecek, coming at you right here from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47 at Trekland Treks for some sanity, clarity, and a bigger picture in all things Star Trek. Hey, welcome back for another Tuesday. But I want to talk about a simple message that I just spoke about in my episodically weekly Second Opinion show. But I wanted to expand it because I don't think I hit everything that needed to be said. And I wanted to share it with a slightly different audience. So hang on for that. It's a day when, I've got a little bit more news to share on a couple of projects, but I want to basically get to that. Just to remind you also that I'm so proud of this. I'm so happy. I can't believe it's been 8 years since I started Portal 47. We're about to start our 9th year. And to help me kick it off, our annual open house for the anniversary this year has, the great Nicholas Meyer, for those of you who, are new to the game. But Nick is going to be my special guest at 6 o'clock Pacific. We'll have a sample Ask Dr. Trek roundtable at 7 o'clock Pacific, which, is 10 Eastern. It's a nationwide thing, 10 Eastern. He'll be on for an hour at least. Maybe we'll go a little over. We've famously gone over before. We do it every month with our regular guests. This is our open house that's free to the public every year. Plus, we have door prizes. I've got books and Blu-rays to give away that are all Trek. You can submit questions ahead of time. You can signal that you're going to be there. It's all free. Just join up. You can go to the homepage and click in the calendar, or you can just go right to /openhouse23. There's a page there with Nick. You can click in, just register your name and your email. And that way, you're in the drawing for the door prizes. B, you can send in questions for Nick. And C, I'll just have a head count, which is helpful to do. And we'll probably give away 4 or 5 things through the evening. All right. I can't believe this is our 8th one. We've had a great lineup of folks in the past. You'll see. All right. Please jump in and join us. Doesn't matter if you're a regular here or if you're new. And of course, as you see the social media pop up, it'd be wonderful if you'd share that too. All right. I think I broke a record last year and we had 100 on live, but I know we can do better than that. All right. I want to get in here and talk about something that I started to. I think we're all loving Lower Decks. Now, look, I realize some folks, and I have them in Portal, are waiting on the hard media. They don't subscribe week to week. So I'm going to respect that, but I've got to say up front right now, if you're not looking for spoilers, you might want to take a dive. You might want to turn the old volume down for a minute. And I know far more people are watching Lower Decks than in the early days, because in the early days, it was what? A cartoon? What? Humor? What? Filmation style? Well, no to all of that. Oh, it's the guy that does Rick and Morty? Ha! I don't want my Star Trek Rick and Mortyized. Well, we told you that in the beginning. I pontificated here about read his book Warped, the lost 8th season of Next Generation. And you would have a perfect clue to what kind of sense of humor we were going to see. A very loving sense of humor. Of course, 4 seasons later, 4 or 5 years later, we all know the kind of sense of humor that Mike McMahon has. And we know the team, the Titmouse animation team, the amazing Easter eggs, detail. Yeah. The jokes, the fun, the in-house. It's like 10 years of Facebook memeing. That's all there. But the secret is what people weren't expecting. They weren't expecting Lower Decks to be canon building. They weren't expecting Lower Decks to even start having something to say in the best Star Trek tradition. And that is what, if we danced around this over the years, especially that second, then I really wanted to hit it at the end of this last Second Opinion, all about, and now the conclusion, about the 4th season episode wrap up. New faces, new planets, old faces, bad planets. I forget. It's such a generic title, but it's the season finale. But as I was getting and prepping for my Second Opinion, which runs 15, 20 minutes, I stumbled upon something watching the final scene. And originally, my good old Star Trek, my longtime fandom flags, I felt like I was watching James T trying to talk Matt Decker out of that shuttlecraft kamikaze run down the maw of the Doomsday Killer. He's doing the same kind of speech. I so wish, as Beckett is talking, as Mariner's talking to Nick Locarno, I so wanted her to say, Nick, we're stronger with you than without you. Didn't happen, but the tone was there. But what's also interesting is Matt Decker was a legit hero. So, in fact, Saru, looking at famous Starfleet captains, back in the first season of Discovery, called up a list, and among the ones you'd expect was Matt Decker. Oh, okay. Captain, before he was a Commodore and in command of a fleet, or whatever that means in a field commission. The difference there with now is that Matt Decker had been a stalwart Starfleet hero and been broken. He had been traumatized. He was in shock from losing his entire crew. Yes, go to all the old tropes and memes. He was on a Captain Ahab complex. He was going to kill that whale of his, the Doomsday Machine, or die trying, and that's what he did. But he did at least give them the idea of how to defeat it, and that's the moral of the story. In this case, Nick Locarno is not a longtime Starfleet hero that has to be talked back off the ledge and can't be. Now, Nick, sadly, is a screw up. And for all the folks, and yeah, we get the joke about why Tom Paris is Nick Locarno. Robbie Duncan McNeil played both parts. They were going to cast somebody different. The famous story was, we need a Robert Duncan McNeil type. Why not just get him and then just ignore the fact that they were the same person? Well, we had Diana Muldaur. We had Morgan Woodward. You have all kinds of people historically playing different roles across Star Trek, even within the same series. And yeah, it was a much bigger deal in the 60s. They didn't care. Now they at least say, well, let's at least bring them back as the same role, whatever. Didn't happen there because, as much as people say, well, they're both troubled boys, right? Paris was just as troubled a youth as Locarno did. And Paris has a bigwig admiral dad. We never got that much about the Locarno family background. But the reason we're talking about a one-off guest star versus a long-time running regular character who was going to have an arc longer than 1 hour. In this case, he got 3 hours. or no, 2 half hours, and maybe a 10 episode half hour season if you count all the mystery ship attacks. Had to finally quit calling it the Agonizer ship. It looked just like an Agonizer. So it's the Nova 1. Okay. The difference there is why Locarno wasn't just used again was because they needed Paris to be redemptive. And nothing we got out of the first duty, right? The Nick Locarno investigation episode with Nova Squadron, 5th season, Next Generation, 2368. The genesis we got out of that was he was an unrelenting, unrepentant person. We watched the rest of the panel, maybe so. Well, Will. All the focus settles on Will because he's the recurring regular character. We care about the rest of the panel, but it's Will we focus on in that time. Now, we find out later on that we bring Cito Jaxa back. They love Shannon Phil. They bring her back. Picard especially makes it a project to try to redeem her. Out of the other 3 members surviving that he had a stake in, being able to do that, he chose Cito Jaxa, of course, to tragic results, sending her on this Black Ops mission. And people can debate the morality of that. But this whole debate about why didn't you just use... Well, in the beginning of Voyager, I get it. At 7 years down and 20 years since, people who are still saying, why didn't they just use Nick Locarno again? I mean, all things are doable. Writers can bend their will with any plot or character. I get it. But I think their intention was to start fresh so that you came in with no baggage about this Tom Paris character, because they were going to have him hooked up to a famous admiral. In the end, they wanted him to be Janeway's redemption project, the same way that Picard was taking on Cito. Okay. The point here is that Nick Locarno was part of this arc. It was pretty brilliant, actually, because not only was it an interesting character that had been left there dangling in all the sea of characters across all of Star Trek over the years, but it was just going to be a fun thing. It was going to be one of those, kind of the way we got into with Picard season 3. It's going to be who's going to pop up next. And when you have a big bad and people are going down the list for the season arcs, it turns out that it wasn't a big bad. It was a little bad, an internal, like a cancer. And the sad thing is, for his own sake, is Nick Locarno, as we see, and as I said, is stuck. He's still stuck back as a senior at the academy, as a first-class cadet. He's still stuck back in 23. Everything about his life is about redeeming that. Nova this, Nova that. Starburst this, Colvard that. Everything about him is all meant to get that one moment back. He is stuck. And in the best therapeutic tradition of Star Trek, finally, in her plea to him, when the chips are down and the clock is ticking on the final finale timer, Mariner says, don't let anger define you like that. Ooh, look who's looking in a mirror. What a powerful person, the right person to say that. But then what I wasn't expecting was for this to turn with just a couple of lines. And I feel like it's flown right past everyone. I feel like I didn't do it justice. I stumbled across this so late that I was in the middle of trying to get second opinion done on deadline, at 2 a.m. And I put it in, but I don't think I hit it on the head as much as I wanted to. Basically, Mariner makes a personal appeal for Nick to beam out, to join them again, take responsibility for what he did, but have a redemption arc. She appeals personally, but then she goes broad brush. And what does she basically say? He spent all this time, he spent 13 years shriveled up, angry about what he perceives as the Federation, or even some of the mainstream, he's appealing to the lower disaffected folks on a ship of every empire, or even independent. By the way, did you see Petra? Aberdeen? Yeah, an independent archaeologist guild ship or whatever they have. What I'm saying is, basically, Mariner makes the point that every system, even the most earnest ones and idealistic ones, even they have their flaws. But that is no reason to blow them up. They're not so past going that they can't be redeemed from working from within. Locarno tries to equate her dissatisfaction over the years with his. And she says, no, I don't disagree with the mission, right? Just some of the people, some of the aspects of it. And that's why she stays in. Of course, she's looking at the world through refractively repaired eyes right now anyway. She's processing an awful lot since she started having her breakthroughs, first in her Invicta therapy holodeck, and now this year, right? She's really come a long way. Yeah, she's trying to say that even a system that at its core is good, but has its flaws, that is better than what he's on. What is he on? An ego-driven revenge tour, basically. And the people he thinks are his allies are really people he's snookered into being there. Are they going to be his allies the minute they find out he's going to throw them under the bus? The minute that they become disillusioned that everything he promised them is going to fall away? Because it has to. Because even if he's not trying to be a narcissist, say, he is so wrapped up in his own pain and anger that whatever he's promising them as a sidebar, the fallout from his own satisfaction is going to shower on them. This is typical, This is a typical, what a mob setup, the psychology of a gang, the psychology of anybody, come in for yourself. But when the core of it is that rotten, and she's going back to the kid that was a pure Starfleet cadet like she was. She's just recently had Sokath her eyes open. She's recently had her redemptive moment. And she's trying to, like the reformed smoker, the reformed alcoholic, she's trying to bring him aboard her own recovery vehicle. And he's too far gone. If nothing else, I'd say he's been so isolated for whatever the hell he's done for 13 years. He's been so isolated that at least with all of Beckett Mariner's problems and being propped up time and time and time again, would you say that it was privilege for her, having a mom and a dad both in the upper echelons of Starfleet? If she was anybody else, would she have been kicked to the curb just like Locarno? Maybe. Or maybe there was something inside her that couldn't stand to go rotten. We've seen over the 4 years Beckett go and do something, maybe not by the rules, but go and help people, help the people on this planet, help fellow crew folks. Go out of her way to help, to save causes, people that she had no business worrying about, but she did. And somewhere on the way, if Locarno ever had that, he's lost it. And sadly, maybe the most redemptive thing he did was, I don't know, he ignored her. He was so wrapped up in his own progression that, yeah, he let the mini Genesis Ferengi device go off. What I'm saying here is Mariner's desperate and ultimately unsuccessful appeals to Locarno, to me, just rang through with today. He's angry. He's got a good right to be, maybe in some ways. Maybe he feels like the punishment for the original incident was far too harsh. He might have a point. Starfleet and the Federation is all about second chances and third chances and fourth chances. And why did Locarno never get that? You have to admit culpability and responsibility at some point. Maybe he never could. But talking to today's world, this whole mission about just because you have an issue with the institution, if most people agree that it's of good character, if most people believe that it's got an idealistic bent, but it has flaws, like what doesn't? And what do you accomplish by burning it all down? Because that's what it may have been about him, but the ultimate outcome was going to be burning it down. And no one around you is really going to be truly with you in the end. And they'll be the first to bail on you when they figure that out. I just had a moment of clarity watching this little cartoon toward the end, and I thought, wow, is this a message for our times? I think it is. I think it flew by so fast, but I would love to see that little 30 seconds, 60 seconds trumpeted out, her quote box, where she's pleading for the overall idealism of the institution to be fixed, not imploded, not tossed aside. Because what's going to replace it? I don't know. And yes, I did a second opinion on the episode. I hope you go watch it. There's lots more to the second opinion. This was one of, 5 or 6, well, maybe one of 20 points, 5 or 6 big points that were a lot of canon fun about Beckett and about Mariner and about a lot of things. I just regret that this got shoehorned in at the end, because big picture here, once again, year by year, and we'll see this in a minute, the animated shows ratings don't stack up to what the live action shows are when it comes to Trek. The live action series, just by nature, and whether they're doing hot or not, even in the most disparaged times when Discovery was new, but people were arguing about it, when it was being contentious. Even then, even the first season or two of Picard, when people weren't quite as satisfied, say, as the third season. Even then, much less Strange New, which came out of the gate, a golden child. All those times, the parrot analytics, and I'm betting the digital Nielsen's, even with their flaws, they were doubling and tripling basically the eyeballs watching Lower Decks and Prodigy. And Prodigy had its, problematic showing to the world, people being able to access it. But there's just a step down in people's minds about most people's minds about animation. And I'm just here to tell you, that's not true of both series. In their own ways and a lot similarly, they may be the purest Star Trek yet, even as one appeals to kids and one appeals to your snarky funny bone. They're the heart and the pathos of both are incredible. And again, they may be the purest Star Trek yet. And if you measure Star Trek on what does it add to the canon, oh my God, Lower Decks this year, we had the Orion shows. Lower Decks has done more for the entire Orion playbook than anything. And that's even with what we've had on Discovery and Strange New Worlds. Lower Decks has given us more background into the Orions than anything else in Trek, I'm going to say. We have fleshed out Ferengi. We have looked at Robin. I'm just going to say this. You do know that the showrunners get together when needs be, and they don't just compete over who's going to get to talk about Janeway or who's going to talk about Wesley Crusher. They actually keep tabs on when Prodigy does a Borg ship. It doesn't interfere with the Picard plotline. Does a Borg ship, does a Borg episode. That happens. And everybody is paying attention to what Mike and company are doing with the Orions, with fleshing out the Ferengi, licensing Quarks, right? So I'm just saying, it's not just an animated show. And it's not just about the building block canon, which you may not be aware of. So boom, there's one. Boom. Some of the best Star Trek messaging ever. And for our times, by the wind-up, the personal psyche is there along the way, all the way through, especially this season. But Lower Decks is bringing the mail. Lower Decks is bringing it when it comes to good old Star Trek commentary. It's condensed in a 22-minute episode, 25, 30-minute episode, but it's there. It's a mini message, but it's there. And if you haven't seen the finale, much less the last season, I urge you to jump in. It's really, really well crafted. I also said this already, that I think the whole running arc bit, they've handled it really well, a mix of standalone story, but with the big mystery. There's even one episode where it's not even referred to. I don't know how much harder we can cheerlead for Lower Decks. Season 5 is in the way. Mike kind of shook the world a little bit a couple of weeks ago when he was talking about a potential season 6. So we'll see. We'll see. Get the numbers up for 4, and then when 5 comes around, hoot and holler for it. What I'm saying is, it has come so far. It was so enjoyable at the beginning, but how the series has matured is amazing. And yes, the inclusion of T'Lyn has been a wonderful merger. Hasn't felt glommed on at all. Now I wonder why they didn't have her at the beginning. How did we miss this in the beginning? So anyway, there is my cheering section with reasons for Lower Decks. I'm going to be curious to see what everybody says. I think most people are going to go, yay, yay, yay. But what I'm curious about is if anybody else had my takeaway. Because right now in this country and around the world, there are so many folks who are so hurt and angered. At least at some point in their life, they went down this path that they feel like the best thing to do is just burn it all down and start over, which is a lot tougher. It's like civilization coming back from a meteor strike. Might even be a totally different life form. The burn down and comeback is not nearly quite as easy to accomplish as you might think. And if you do that, if you open all the gates, all the flood channels, it won't be in your lifetime, bucko, that things come back to normal better. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share. And did anybody else come away with that at the end? Because I wasn't expecting it. I was not expecting it. All right. Look, if you're on YouTube right now watching us later, thanks for doing that. I'd love it if you could come on with us live, because live, you could be part of the chat here. But even if you're watching us later, make sure to comment and spread it around on my channel here. Like and subscribe, do all those things, okay? You also need to know, aside from signing up for, making sure you claim your virtual seat for our 8th annual open house for Portal 47 with Nick Meyer, yay, and an hour of a sample Ask Dr. Trek roundtable before that. It's basically an open mic, but those are the 2 live formats we have in the portal. Also, a reminder that any season is a Trekland tour season. You're coming to LA, business pleasure, you got a spare day, get in touch with me early on. We'll set up a day for you. 4 stops, lunch, and my tour guiding, my hosting, my driving, my wrangling your props and your cosplay. Whatever it takes to make it a memorable, custom, unique away mission for you that you'll remember your whole life, or maybe even 2 days. Love to help you with that at treklandtreks.com. That's all year, any year. Check it out. Of course, it wouldn't be hello and goodbye here without a big thank you to all of our Patreons. So our TTL Club, Thank you so much, Diana Hopkins, Robin Wilson, Lawrence Todd, Anne-Marie Siegel, Justin Porteous, Glenda Bruton, Chris Jiggins, Pranakasha Productions, Comedy Forecast, and Andrew Jasimski, and our live wires who have access to our early years of Portal 47 interviews, the first 2 or 3 backstage years. Robert McLean, Byron Bailey, J.R. Pull, Javier Gunn Johnson, Alan Hoensi, Dave Gregory, Tobias Rex, Donna Isrunyan, and Casey Shafsky. It's very easy to do if you're familiar with Patreon, and even if you're not, go check it out. Patreon.com/Trekland Live. I have a simple Patreon, $5 and $10. Anybody can jump in. You're supporting what we're doing here. I don't know if you could tell a little bit difference in signal and picture quality lately, but we've rejiggered things just a little bit. Thank you to have you and supporting us that way. And other big news this week, Trek Files is back. Season 11, the season 11 premiere is with none other than the great and always quotable David Gerald is our season premiere guest. It's the new one is out today. The hiatus is over. We're back for another 24 episode season 11. Have some really interesting things coming. And this year, kind of leaning into the 50th anniversary of the original animated series. TAS is a common theme through a lot of our guests and our topics and our documents of the week, our real files. So please join us. It's over at podcast.roddenberry.com or on our Facebook page, The Trek Files, and that is where our documents of the week are. Because, hey, at least one podcast out there needs to have homework, don't you think? All right. Yes, I'm still on X Twitter until something else pokes its head up. There's so many competitors. We'll see. We'll see how things land. It's just at Larry Nemecek. All right. Did I mention YouTube? Of course I did. Please like and subscribe and share us on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram too. A lot of fun stuff is happening on Instagram. And for those of you asking, yes, we had an awesome time at Will Rogers' 144th birthday Saturday. There's some really cute Instagram reels and things that are up. Appreciate you checking those out too. My other passion, I do have a life beyond Star Trek. Thank you very much. For a lot of the same reasons. Oh, and portal47.net. If you're curious about the open house, just go to our main page and look. But make sure you get your free ticket to be there on Wednesday night, the 14th. All righty. Hey, everybody. Keep an eye on the TeePublic stores, too, because they have random, like twice a month. And it's getting toward Christmas season. Maybe you or somebody you know deserves one of our cool designs, one of our brands. If nothing else, a Trek Well t-shirt. All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us as you watch this, this YouTube. Join us live sometime when you can, all right? And until I see you next time, do all the things. Stay healthy. Stay woke. Check your sources. Crazy days. And Trek well, everybody.